10th day of January 2024. I think this is the first year in a decade where I got the date right in the first month for the first 10 days. It's pretty good. I give us a round of applause out there. Okay. Alrighty. I know everybody was making bets today. There's no way in the world Dana's going to do another show on earthquakes. There's just no way. There's no way. There's no way. He's never done that in years and years and years and years and years. I've never seen him do it. 9 shows in a row. It's unheard of. I guarantee you he won't do it. Well, you is probably right normally, but not today. So what's the big whoop? Why am I so worried about earthquakes? There's reactor 1, what's left of it. That was 100% meltdown. Reactor 2 in Fukushima. I'm going to talk about Fukushima for a second so you can appreciate how batshit crazy this industry actually is. That's reactor 2. It's 100% meltdown, and there was 2 fuel pools at the top of the building. That's 100% meltdown. Reactor 3 and reactor 4, they're fairly obviously, those buildings don't exist. They should have been razed all the way to the ground. They're both 100% meltdown. They both lost decades of reactor cores stored in 2 fuel pools at the top of each of the buildings. So you got 4 reactors, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chernobyl was a single reactor with no fuel pools. Chernobyl can't compete with reactor 4, but reactor 3, for instance, was a mixed oxide fuel. This was reclaimed uranium plutonium from nuclear weapons and fuel and what they call used fuel. But the problem with the used fuel is when the fuel goes into the reactor, it becomes very brittle, and after about 18 months, it's very, very brittle, and it's no longer stable. The 2 reactors we know or can prove blew up is reactor 1 and 3, for instance. And in reactor 3, you can see the fuel pools, the reactor cores falling back down to the earth. But for some reason, we don't have footage of reactor 4, which was right there too. And it obviously blew up. So nuclear, very, very, very sketchy industry. Very, very sketchy. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe and notify and click all those buttons and bells and whistles and everything else. It'll make you feel good. Not just me, but you. You'll feel good, all that clicking. All that clicking. Clicking. Okay, so why is the media in 2013 worldwide pretending that they're in the fuel pool at the top of a building that no longer exists? If you can guess it, you get first prize. First 5 is 5 buckets of horse manure. And you get that free, but you got to bring your own lids. There was 865,000 cancers in the first year in 2012, according to Japan National Cancer Center. Extra. And not everybody had health care. Not everybody was diagnosed. Not everybody was alive to be diagnosed, would have died earlier from the massive pulse event of radioactive fallout. So every nuclear scientist, academic on the planet, when he seen reactor 4 originally, knew that building no longer had fuel pools or reactor cores. France was one of them. So France put out this model of where they found 1 million to 10 million atoms of cesium-137 per cubic meter of air. This model of radioactive fallout is based on 31 days. It covers the entire planet and it never goes away. But you got to consider that the majority of the fallout is going to be the curium isotopes. This is why we call them curium meltdowns. What the hell was that all about, Dana? So in 2013, July the 13th, 2023 rather, July the 13th, a professor of nuclear and quantum engineering from South Korea came out and claimed that the 1,000 tanks at Fukushima was the animosity equivalent of 2.2 grams of tritium. So they said all that got out of these millions and millions of pounds that were in each of the buildings was 2 grams of tritium. That's all that got out. Which should have been the poll tonight. Do you really think only 2.2 grams got out of these 2 massive buildings? And he said, don't worry, because it's like throwing 3 grams of sugar into the Pacific Ocean. And they mocked you. And this is a professor of nuclear and quantum engineering. Now, the reality was they picked up 30 million one-ton bags that we can quantify. And here's another model of the radioactive fallout based on flawed emissions, only based on venting. It's not based on the actual nuclear meltdowns like I'm showing you. Now, you can pretend the pictures are not real, but they're actually real. And they say nothing got out of that, only 1/16 of that coin worth each year for the next 30 years. All right, I think we're ready. I do believe we're ready. Ready. Steady. Here we go. Ay, ay, ay. What the hell are we doing? We're still talking about earthquakes, Dana. I know. Give me a minute. I'm getting there. Goodness gracious. Great balls of fire. So last night when the video was over, it had 44 views. That was pretty good, isn't it? It's not bad, is it? It had 63 likes, though. How do you get 44 views but only 63 likes? I actually had 183 people. So normally I would have got around 150 views, but about a month ago or so, they decided that I wasn't even going to get that anymore. So the poll last night, that was a pretty good poll, I thought. Not like all the other polls. This one was pretty interesting. Does it seem that Japan purposely is leaving the roads blocked to the Shika nuclear power plant to hide the meltdown of the fuel pools? We believe the fuel pools of Shika nuclear power plant is melted down. And we got oodles and oodles of those reasons to suggest it. Now, tonight we got another poll. You're like, no way. 2 polls in 2 nights? What's the chance, Dana? No, it's true. Should Japan use helicopters to bring supplies and help to the thousands and thousands and thousands of victims after 10 days of no help? Now I know what you're saying, Dana. You know, they can send in 4 or 5 people from the self-defense force on foot. They can do it. And other people are saying, like, Dana, helicopters are not for helping. And that was the right answer, and everybody got it wrong. Look at this. Everybody got that wrong. You voted yes. When you're supposed to vote, helicopters are not for helping. Because if helicopters were for helping, then they would have used them already, Dana. I know. All right, let's keep going. It might seem like the madness is already stopped, but it's just, you can protest all you want. Rah, 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 rah. Protest. We can put a man up into space, but we can't put a helicopter up in Shizu. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm trying to work it out in my head, and my head hurts. I was hoping Spider-Man might go in and help him, or the Hulk, right? Or Superman, or Wonder Boots, or whatever the creature there is, or the Wolfman. They're all totally immune to radiation, every one of these guys. And they all displaced your children. Your children's heroes are them, not your grandparents, not you, the parents, but they're these fictional characters created by Marvel comic and the nuclear industry. In fact, you can't even get the word hero out there and make a GoPro hero and guitar hero. The word hero doesn't exist unless he's a politician or from the nuclear industry, apparently. Like in the old days, evil, we got rid of it. That's how we do it. We got rid of it. We said, that was it. You're done, buddy. Or we got rid of it in the old days. We just said, the hell with it. I'm going to solve the problem. No more problem. But these are not the old days. These are the new days. We got to deal with it. So there's been around 1,200, as of yesterday, 1,240 aftershocks. There's a nuclear power plant up on the Noto Peninsula, the Ishikawa Peninsula, and the houses are destroyed down here. Like flattened, the roads are torn up and rose up 13 feet. 85 kilometers of the coastline, including Shika site, nuclear power plant, which happens to be on the coastline, is extended out 820 feet and rose up 13 feet. And we can't get very much footage, and we've been covering this relentlessly. Now, for the last 9 days, they've been calling it Tremors with an L. All of a sudden today, they decided to change up the game a little tiny bit, and they're using the word Tremors, rather. So we got some reports coming out that at Shika nuclear power plant site, underneath the site was a fault line where it was an upper 5 of a 7. But Shika itself, the community, was the highest level of 7 on Japan's seismic intensity scale in the town of Shika, which is really interesting because we're not getting any footage out of Shika in the town of Shika. So I just got to build you kind of a baser before we get kicking. Ishikawa officials said there was over 14 homes in Ishikawa below the Shika plant, south of Shika down here. There was around 14 homes collapsed. But we know that up at Suzu was around 4,500 homes, or 90% of the 5,000 homes. So there you go. In Suzu, a town of just over 5,000 households, 90% of the houses may have been destroyed. But the mayor actually said there was nothing left standing. And he was quoted over a couple of days, right? And then they stopped quoting him. Did you notice that? So the first two shows, you'll see that we got all that headlines of him with different quotations. The New Year's Day earthquake itself was centered 30 kilometers east-northeast of Fukushima, with a provincial depth of 16 kilometers, and registered the highest level of 7 on Japan's seismic intensity scale of 7 in the town of Shika. In other words, a perfect 7, which is would be a 10 out of a 10 on the Richter scale. So Suzu is up at the top. Wajima is over there on the outskirts. That's where they had a couple of hundred, and the center for the 1,000-year-old businesses burned down. Shika is where the nuclear power plant, and when you see Ishikawa too, down there they had over 14 homes collapsed. The Noto Peninsula extended out actually 250 meters according to the GPSs. That's been there for many years. 15 of the 15 radiation detecting devices outside of the Shika nuclear power plant all failed. And 85 kilometers right through Suzu, Wajima, Shika in the Ishikawa prefecture, leading to new coastlines that extended out 820 feet, 250 meters. Central Japan quake death toll rose is over 200, but there's still 13 communities or something they haven't gotten to, which is why we got a poll tonight. That's why we got a poll tonight. Should Japan use helicopters to bring supplies and help to thousands of victims after 10 days of no help? I know what you're saying. Well, not everybody's entitled to help, Dana. And I agree with you. The nuclear industry shouldn't get any help at all. The full extent of the damage is still unknown, and seismic activity remains heightened. So you got 1,300 plus aftershocks. You got over 1,000 landslides, and this was on day 8. There was still no relief to the areas. This was way up the peninsula, and the roads in these little communities were still not cleared out. They left the block each landslides in place. We haven't seen any heavy equipment removing landslides. But today we did get footage of ambulances and fire trucks. It was really something to see. 1,000 forced from their home after deadly. They drew 1,000 troop firefighters and police were picking through the collapsed buildings on Monday, which is not true. That was Monday's the 8th, right? Now we know that wasn't true. Japan warns of strong quakes. We're almost up to the starting the show here. We're just trying to build you a picture. Now, these people are living on one glass of water and one slice of bread a day. 8 days later, 9 days later. Let me go backwards. Small groups of self-defense force troops have been dispatched to the isolated areas on foot. And so, I had a brainstorm. I was like, why not send in helicopters? Am I crazy just to think that? Could we really do that? And it turns out the reason, I was talking to a guy from Japan, he said they would like to send in the helicopters with pallets of food and water and blankets. Really do it. They love to. But every time they get a pallet in Japan, they turn it into toothpicks. And that's why there's no pallets. And therefore, they can't send it, Dana. It's common sense. I apologize because, that's common sense. I should have thought that out. I didn't think it out. I apologize. Everybody in Japan. Earthquake triggers a destructive fire in Iwajima City. And Lord knows we've seen this picture enough times. All the media has ran with that picture over and over and over. After initial help of a piece of bread and a cup of water, not a glass of water, but a cup of water, for each person a day, a cup of water for a person a day. Japanese villages on the 8th Monday wait for help after the quake. How long have you been waiting? Just 8 days. Yeah, we got a glass of water and a slice of bread every day, so we're okay. Great-great-grandma doesn't need much more than that. He has refrained from taking food from rations at his shelter so he would go to the people more in need. And food rations are a slice of bread. So this, what date was this? This was yesterday. This was Monday. We have received no public support, and the main street is still blocked due to rubble, which has been left untouched. How can you leave them? Every community got heavy equipment, naturally, right? They got companies and businesses, and they got the town council and administration, and they got the provincial or the prefectural governments. All kinds of equipment is staged all over that place. They could have cleaned up the local roads, but they didn't. Anywhere on the peninsula, except for, there's evidence of one place. I'm going to show you that coming up. So 200 extra meters of the coastline, and just one more, and then we're ready. As usual, I forgot to import it. I'm slowly forgetting everything. Dan, stop it. Just tell the story. This was yesterday's story. No, January 6th. According to the electric power company Ishikawa, Monday's 7.6 magnitude quake, which is the Richter scale, registered an upper 5, which is a 5.6, which is 6 rather, because there's only 5, then 5.5, then 6, then 6.5, and then 7 is the last of the scale. Of a maximum of 7 on Japan's seismic intensity scale beneath the number 1 reactor of the plant in Shika, Ishikawa prefecture. Well, that's quite the statement. Now, I haven't heard the statement repeated anywhere else. Okay, so originally when Fukushima happened, there was a lot of people came out what we consider controlled opposition. And they said these buildings did not melt down, that they took all the nuclear fuel, they had it on pallets, and they whisked it away and buried it locally In the tsunami debris, there is no meltdown. And we called them out on it.
I'm not joking. They took the radioactive debris from Fukushima the day after the tsunami hit, and they had it all ready to go. The 60 years worth of stored radioactive fuel, they had it all ready to go on pallets. The reactor was already shut down in maintenance mode when the earthquake hit. Then the tsunami came in, and Fukushima sits about 30 to 40 feet up off the ocean, up on a big mound. And so the wave that came in was only 30 to 40 feet high at the most, so it only got a couple feet of water that came in. They faked the damage, took the debris, the 60 years worth of stored radioactive debris, took it quickly, had to have buried it in the ground somewhere nearby, not far away, I mean, in the same region most likely, and buried it in a casket of, buried the waste in the casket of tsunami debris, and then blow up the thing 2 days later, 3 days later, and sprinkle some radium around so you get a radioactive debris, slight detection, kind of heavy, making the Geiger counters click around the plant itself, and then everything goes away within a few years. No radiation reaches the shores of the United States, no radiation detected. I drove all the way across the country taking readings, and here we are. I still can take readings, and it's still incredibly low. It's below what we would consider normal range being 30 to 40 clicks per minute. So that being said, the fish is fine. And I've already done tests on the fish too. So the whole Fukushima thing's a scam, guys. They took that debris, buried it in the ground over there, and are collecting money for a thing that they blew up. And all they did was blow it up and sprinkle a little radium around the area or whatever, and everybody thinks that it's a nuclear meltdown. Notice all the robots keep dying. Oh yeah, robot keeps dying. So on here on the card, right off the top, it's absolutely beautiful. Again, we've got almost the same kind of flowers going on here, and it says, thank you. Thank you for your kindness.
So the official word, according to Dutch, he's an expert, is that he faked everything. And actually, he's right. Here's the media faking being in the fuel pool to your left of reactor 4 at Fukushima.
Where I'm standing is on top of what used to be reactor building number 4. The whole of this building was blown apart by a huge explosion.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less than a chest x-ray.
1,500 highly radioactive fuel rods inside this pool. They've got to move them outside of this reactor.
Now you can see to your right, reactor 3 blow up. That's the plume to your left. My apologies. There's many models of that. There's Fukushima. Now Dutch is insisting that didn't happen. It absolutely, positively didn't happen.
This is what I've got on the inside. Look at that. Port-locked, wild smoked salmon. Now, before anybody says anything about Fukushima, don't even talk to me about Fukushima. I've got the Geiger counters. I can do tests if I really wanted to worry. You don't have to worry because Fukushima was a total scam. Total scam. 100%. The fish are fine. The ocean's fine. It's all scam.
So I think Dutch is right. There's no way that melted down. Look at it. It looks perfect. God bless Dutch. May live for 1,000 years. He's actually reading a script, eh? Snow crab are fine. There's 10 billion snow crabs missing, folks, from Alaska. They just got up and disappeared, I tell you what. That's just the way it is. But just in case Dutch is wrong, let's talk about that for a few seconds. Radiation and health specialists, children with over 11 becquerels a kilogram of cesium start to see heart problems, 11 atoms. So that's why the story of Shika is so important. I just got 5 or 6 of these, and then we're back into today's headlines. The radioactive fallout over America in a study was 450,000 times in xenon-133 in particular. Burns a hole through you along and ends up in your bones and mutates your stem cells. Nice stuff, right? Was 450,000 times above detection levels after Fukushima. And by the way, Dutch drove across America with Geiger counters and didn't find any radiation, so therefore it didn't happen. And People donated $50,000 or something during those 2 weeks. And he insists. Now, everything he does, he reads on the screen. Somebody typed it out for him. I studied up on him quite a bit. I was curious of what was going on. And his dad used to be a military PSYOP. And he even says that in a radio interview. And I was like, oh, man, I wouldn't tell people that. Radiation and health specialist, children with over 11 becquerels, 11 atoms. So you put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, but you can't see it. So how are you going to figure out there's 11 there? At 50, they're going to see permanent damage to your heart. Children with 50 becquerels a kilogram will see irreversible damage to the heart. And adults, this is the last one, adults at 50 atoms, think of a becquerel as a pulse of energy. And the pulse of energy is coming from an atom. And think of 50 atoms, and they pulse every second for millions of years. So 50 atoms a kilogram in a human leads to irreversible lesions in the vital organ. All right, so now they changed the narrative today in the media, and now they're only talking about tremors, because normally they do it with an L for the first nine days. They've been using an L, right? Tremors. But today, all the media got rid of the L. And you can't use the word tremors or tremors to describe an earthquake, because that's a sonic vibration in the earth. Is not an actual earthquake. So they do use that word, but it's not in the context. And so when you look up tremor, you don't find it at all. When you look up tremor, you find three. I think it was three. The word tremor is also used for non-earthquake seismic rumbling. So 1,221 tremors. These are not tremors, these are earthquakes. And it was something like 400 of them were over 3.5. Now, we don't know if that's on the Japanese scale of 7. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, we're finally at today's headlines. How mad is this story where you got to go through all this just to get to the story? That's all good. It's all water under the bridge now. Let's get after it. Suspicions linger over safety of Japan's nuclear power plant after an oil leakage at the Shika nuclear power plant following the Noto quakes. I'm going to have to bring this up on the big screen. The big screen. Big screen. I got a big head, big screen. Inside on Tuesday questioned the company's credibility and transparency, considering no evidence of their claims have been proven to the public that nothing has happened. So here was a Chinese media going, oh, no, you don't. Also, they worried that the damage caused by the Noto quakes at the nuclear power plant could be worse than initially disclosed. And remember, in 1996, they had 3 fuel rods that had a criticality event on their own, and they hid it for 15 years at the Shika plant. Many are worried that the Shika plant will be a repeat disaster of the Fukushima. Yes, indeed. Well, if the fuel pool goes down, you're talking 10, 12 reactor cores in the fuel pools. They're underwater because they're still splitting atoms. And so if they got no oxygen, they go China syndrome, no offense China, right away. The Shika plant, nuclear power plant, is located 65 kilometers, 40 miles from the epicenter. As I already reported, temporary power outages. There's 100% power outages. They have no external power whatsoever anywhere. Even though I'm turning the mic down, I still got to look away. Oil leaks at transformers, and the transformers are not oil. These are PCPs. And water spill over from the nuclear fuel pools. Like the buildings are 190 feet tall, 50 or 65 meters tall, 190 feet tall, 150 feet wide, 50 meters wide. So 19-story building, in order for the water to spill, it has to sway like, it's hard to describe. It probably should crack off before it actually spills water. It failed to provide relevant specific data in the report. They didn't even write up a report on their version of what happened there. Like, the whole town was torn apart. The coastline moved out 820 feet. The whole coastline was lifted up 13 feet. And then when it got to the plant, it went around the plant and then it lifted up again for 85 kilometers of the coastline. That was the only spot on the entire coastline where it didn't lift up 13 feet. Pretty cool, you ask me. Moreover, there have been reports of ground subsidence around the reactor buildings of Unit 1 that the company assured that the conditions were not impact the safety of the Shika plant. Yeah, the company also insisted there was no criticality for 15 years, when there absolutely was. And local media reported that there was explosion sounds, burning smells near the transformers. And then, the last time we heard of something spilled out of the fuel pool was at Fukushima last year or the year before. I think it was last year. And they said it was Reactor 3, but Reactor 3 fuel pool is gone. I showed you all that documentation earlier. And Reactor 4 fuel pool, they said, was empty. And this is 2013, where they're pretending they're in the fuel pool. So they won't hesitate to lie. There's no lie too big to tell. Let's be clear about this. There's no lie too big for them to tell. Given the stained, which is an appropriate word, by the way, I'm a bit jealous, history of mistakes, concealment, and deception made by certain Japanese electric power companies, not mentioning no names, typical, the public seems to have lost trust in the companies. Thank goodness. If there's a similar situation between this Shika plant and Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disease factory, what is most worrying is the potential dumping of contaminated water from the Shika plant, as the contaminated water could be dumped directly into the Sea of Japan, reaching the coast of China and releasing a doomsday amount of radiation, like they done at Reactor 1, 2, 3, and 4 at Fukushima. And given that the Sea of Japan is a semi-enclosed sea, the self-purification capacity of the sea is much weaker than that of an open sea. See? Do you see? So once the sea, get a little carried away there. Once the containment water is discharged into the sea, I got to use that word for the rest of the night now, the radioactive contamination will last longer in and around the sea, according to Chang. And his brother's name was Chang. Oh, Chang. First off, Chang, the reactors of Fukushima gave up the ghost. By day 6, all the reactors were melted and gone. And I mean gone. And so the Sea of Japan and Sea of China, I mean, you picked up 30 million one-ton bags in a single prefecture. But the food was banned from 14 prefectures. I highlighted them over there, half the country, by 55 countries for a decade. That's got to weigh somewhere in this equation, okay? And so for Chang, his brother's name is obviously Chang, suggesting that the only radioactive fallout in the Sea of Japan, there's none currently, is ludicrous, because this is the data from one of the models from TEPCO. I could have done better than that. And that's what I'm giving you tonight, so suck it up. Here's another one. That model is only based on 21 days of radioactive fallout of plutonium or neptunium. I can't remember for that particular other model. This one is Xenon 133. So this is 20 days of radioactive, not even 20 days, this is actually 14 days of radioactive fallout. So you can imagine what happens by 30 days. So at least 3 faults have slipped, and they're quite far apart, and they ruptured in 45 seconds in Japan on January 1st quake. This is quite important. At least 3 faults within a roughly 20 by 120 kilometers. Am I yelling too loud? If I'm yelling too loud, let me know. Everybody's like, fuck you, Dana. You bastard. Stop yelling. Let's go back to the poll for some entertainment over here. Oh, we got somebody got the answer right. Helicopters not for helping. We actually got somebody. Way to go. Yee-hoo. Somebody loves me out there. Should Japan use helicopters to bring supplies and help to the thousands of victims after 10 days of no help? So the only wrong answer tonight is no. The other two answers are the right answers. I appreciate whoever done that. That was mighty nice of you. I went through a lot of trouble to type that up. Okay, Dan, stop fooling around. Tell a story. All right, calm down, man. Should Japan use helicopters? We're in day 10. Now's a pretty good time, you ask me. I'm just not trying to be an a-hole. I'm just saying this is probably a good time to use helicopters. Damn it. If I had one, I'd use it. There's around 12 communities you still haven't got to them. Because helicopters are not for helping? A professor at the University of, who cares, said that small faults are thought to have ruptured like branches. That's why he gets the big bucks, right? Eventually leading to a major rupture. Uh-huh. Now he needs to go on his coffee break and he couldn't finish the article. The Noto Peninsula in the Sea of Japan, which is that big peninsula, it looks like my nose, that sticks off the coast of Japan, whose northwestern area lies above the fault zone, have been experiencing earthquake swarms before the magnitude 7.6 quake / 10 on the 10 Richter scale. Subsequently, a large slip occurred on the fault just below the Ishikawa prefecture city of Wijama. And 26 seconds after that, not 27, not 25, but 26 seconds after that rupture began, a fault is believed to have shifted significantly off the northeast coast of the peninsula. And several active submarine faults are known to exist off the coast of the city of Shuzu in the same prefecture. So that's the three faults. They went giggity. And, we all know what happened after that, don't we? It is highly likely that previous known active faults have moved since fault boundaries have been uncovered based on the way they ruptured, and this overlap with the distribution of the already known submarine active fault. Pretty complicated, Dana. But anyway, it looks like this. Yeah, it looks like that. That's not really a good picture. Hang on. Like that. And this. And that. There you go. That one there. It looks like that. Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit late getting home. There's a bump in the road. This is probably what Shika looks like. The fault that triggered a major earthquake in central Japan New Year's Day may stretch for around 150 kilometers, not 85 but 150, under the Noto Peninsula itself. Oh, you picked a great place for a nuclear plant, morons. And associated seismic activity is likely to continue for the time being, give or take 1 million years. At the end of the meeting in Tokyo, the panel said it believed the magnitude quake was caused by a reverse fault. Like when you put your car in reverse. When the upper hanging wall of the fault is displaced upward away from the footwall. That makes perfect sense to me. That's why they're getting the big bucks, Dana. The area of the tectonic activity has been expanding in and around the region, and residents should remain alert for further thousands of quakes. They registered the highest level of 7 on the Japs seismic intensity scale of 7. Why do they always never? It's pretty rare for them to put that other part of the equation in there, isn't it? Because most people don't know the Japanese intensity scale is only 7. So I got to keep drilling at home. Strong seismic activity has been detected in northeastern areas of the peninsula located in Ishikawa prefecture. And so the M7.6 quake measured 7 on Japan's seismic intensity scale of 7. Why don't they put that there? In the prefectural town of Shika on Monday afternoon. So do you think they left that out accidentally on every one of these paragraphs and stories? Or do you think that's a concentrated routine? And the peninsulas, and so why are they going through that kind of trouble to manipulate you, I wonder? And the peninsula's vicinity has since experienced strong aftershocks, including quakes measuring upper 5, upper 6 yesterday. Scumbags. And a professor emeritus at the University of Shitsu, Tokyo, who heads the panel, told reporters that the latest quake believed to be part of ongoing seismic activity, but it's not known at this point exactly what part of the fault moved, and you won't know. Well, yeah, a couple thousand years you might figure it out, but it'll take that long. Oh, we did get 2 videos showed up today of the tsunami. Wow. And so let's play them. I'm not going to play them. I'm just going to skip through. I'm just going to skip through screenshots just to give you some context. Now, the reason there wasn't so much damage is because the Earth rose up 13 feet. If the Earth didn't rise up at the same time 13 feet, this would have done incredible damage. Now, it did. You can see it going into the communities all of a sudden. And we actually got footage from a community. That's some crazy footage, right? Let's do that again, how quick that came through. It's only a short video. I kind of captured it. Now, the Earth rose up. You see the 2 birds in the center? I'm sorry, coming up right now. The 2 birds, only one of them gets away. I hope the other one is okay. Only one of them flew away. You can't really see it in this. All right. That was pretty satisfying. The video is believed to be the first wave of the tsunami that hit, which is the first one, and shows the water flowing over levees. Immediately after the quake registered a 7 on Japan's 7-point seismic intensity scale. So 7 out of a 7. Why can't you just say a 7 out of a 7 on the Shindu scale? Why not do that? Why is that so difficult for the Japan English-speaking journalists to not write something like that down? And this was, I believe, caused by the tsunami. So right away we got another video coming up after 3 clicks. Junior high boy dies in a quake. High school boy dies in a quake during a visit to Japan City for New Year. So that was sad. And we want to make sure that we give him a little mention. And my heart goes out to the family. Surging tsunami captured by a dash cam during a narrow escape. So he got the warning. And the sirens went off, I guess, or something like that. And he jumped in his truck and he came across an elderly lady who can barely walk. And he turned around and went back and got her. And so we're going to play that. I'll get my big head out of the way because that's going to spoil it. Here we go. So he's driving away. Oh, helicopters are not for helping. I'm glad everybody's... Here we go. Let me try not to screw this up again. So the car mounted, he had a dash cam on the front and a dash cam on the back. And he's rushing away. The driver, and then you can see behind, you can see up there the lady. And I'm going to zoom in on her. Hang on. Because it's not difficult enough for me to do it the other way. I got to be a weirdo and zoom in. Her right there. He drove past her and he didn't realize or think about it. He stopped and then I don't know if we'll see in a second. I can't remember. I think he turned around and went back. And she's got a cane. She can't move very fast. And so I was really happy to see that. That was his neighbor, I think. Yeah. Get out of the picture, Dan, and get on with it. And so he's seeing his neighbor. He turned around. This is him turning around. He urged the woman to get in the car. And as he did, the dark, roaring waves rushed in and swallowed up the community. See the water coming in? He's telling her to get in the car, come on. And he grabs her and just pulls her in the car, I would imagine. The water's coming in full speed and he starts racing away. Now he's in deep water at this stage. He got out of it. And the houses to his left, is what stopped him from getting swallowed by the water and allowed him to get away. The water crashes through those houses. Let's do that one more time. And so he's rushing away, and then he goes past his neighbor, and he turns around, comes back and grabs her. Or maybe he's seen her, ran up and grabbed her. He turned around, went back, he stopped right now, and he got her in the car. This is his rear view, because he just turned around that little nook there. And you can see the water coming, and now they start moving. But look how quick the water caught up to him. Just look at this water now, just boom. And he got out of there with her safely. And there's not a lot, we don't really get a lot of great stories out of this kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool. Should Japan use helicopters to bring supplies and help to the thousands and 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 thousands? Stop it, Dana! Thousands of victims. I think they should. I'm a bit weird like that. Footage showed dark, muddy water striking homes in Ishikawa prefecture of Noto, where Tremor registered a lower 6 on Japan's 7-point seismic intensity scale. So about a 9.2 earthquake on the Richter scale. So they're using the seismic intensity scale there and in Taiwan, because they both have vicious earthquakes, and it's a good way to cover up damage, right? Like they done with the Hiroshima, or the Hokkaido Island in 2018. The driver and one passenger escaped in naked time, and his relatives provide the footage to the scumbag media. According to the driver's relatives and video footage, upon hearing the warning, he drove from his home to go to higher ground. He was moving along a narrow alleyway. He saw his neighbor walking with a stick, and he knew for her to get in on the other side of the car would take too long. He flipped the car around, kicked the door open, dragged her in, drove away, got her to higher ground. She wouldn't have survived that. So that was really awesome. And if you look up the headlines of those stories, you can watch the videos. It's quite dramatic. And there's 2 videos, right? Moving, 2 different stories, 2 videos. Moving central Japan quake evacuees high priority. Hey, thanks for the laugh. We're in day 10, so where's the high priority? They haven't figured out that helicopters can be used to rescue people or bring in food and blankets and water and generators. So they can just bring a pallet. If they didn't make so many friggin' toothpicks, they could be using pallets, put blankets and food and water bottles and all kinds of good chocolate bars and everything, and then whip it in there and just lay it down in front of the shelters where people are starting to become emaciated and dying of dehydration. A lot of people are dying there now because the government hasn't given them no help. They won't clear the roads because they won't let China send in help. They won't let India send in help. They won't let other countries that wanted to send in their own search and rescue with dogs and equipment out of their own pocket. No, you can't go up there. Got a nuclear plant up there. We're not letting you see that. Unless you pay $5. Anyway, local authorities are speeding up efforts to move evacuees to the powerful earthquake that rocked Ishikawa prefecture, another central Japanese area on New Year's Day, to hotels and other accommodations, after conditions at the evacuation centers are believed to have resulted in multiple deaths. Well, this morning was 8 people died of deterioration in their health condition or radioactive fallout. It's hard to call sometimes. Over 26,000 people remain in the evacuation center, with 3,100 residents, is actually 3,300, still cut off due to damaged roads. Wait, now, this is 10 days later. I can't tell you a single instance of like this is the third biggest economy on the planet that has the equipment, has the people, has the resources, has the technology. We have the technology to resolve that. They can bring heavy equipment in on the big Sikorsky helicopters and just drop it off in the communities if that was necessary, but it's not, because the communities have their own equipment, but they're not using it. Moving central Japan, quake evacuees high priorities, death rate soars. Central government expecting to arrange accommodations for approximately 10,000 evacuees in Ishikawa, Toyama, Fukai, and Niigata prefectures within the week, according to sources close to the matter. The prefectural government believes that many people may still be unable to report whether they are safe due to shortfalls in communication and severe traffic. There's around 12 communities, 13 communities or something that are cut off from the world because they won't go in with a helicopter. They won't let anybody else go in there with helicopters. They're not going in with helicopters. In areas affected, now remember these areas were 7 out of 7 on the Japan seismic intensity scale of 7. Local authorities are stepping up inspections on buildings at risk of collapse to prevent secondary damage. Well, the local authorities don't have water. They're passing out a slice of bread a day and a cup of water a day. I feel guilty drinking my water knowing they got none. Big Man Thursday. When you do all this, you got to do all the talking, and your throat gets hacked out like a seagull. At a gutted market in Wajima, where a major blaze broke out following the quake, a large-scale search operation continues for the second day, with police officers removing the rubble by hand. Now, in that same community, everything still hasn't been searched in that local area. By municipality, Suzu, which I showed you earlier, had 90% of the homes collapse out of 5,000, which is 4,500. A city on the northern tip of the Noto Peninsula and adjacent, Wajima, have seen the largest numbers of fatality, with 91 and 93 killed respectively. Here goes the throat again tonight. Let me dial back the volume just a little tiny bit. Sometimes I turn it up on purpose and sometimes I don't. Tonight I don't. Demand for liquid infant formula surges after Noto Peninsula earthquake because a lot of them haven't got any water, and this doesn't need water. It's already ready mixed and you can store it at room temperatures. And so it's perfect for an emergency because babies got to eat too. I know that, like, no, they don't, Dana. No, honestly, God, they got to eat too. And so the company that makes them has the top share of the liquid formula market in Japan, 70%. After the Noto Peninsula earthquakes, provided approximately 3,700 cans of liquid formula to the disaster-stricken area for free in response to the request from Japan's. We believe that orders for stockpiling are also increasing from municipalities and companies outside of the disaster area, which is a great idea. Because in a country that has over 1,000 significant earthquakes a year, so to speak, it can't hurt. Let's keep it rolling here. Water containing radioactive material spills over. Now, in the history of nuclear, I've only heard this 2 times. Last year, in fuel pools at Fukushima that don't even exist, he said water spilled out of the fuel pools. And now we're hearing it again, where we suspect there's a significant accident at the fuel pools. So it's an interesting way to subconsciously get somebody to accept that the fuel pools are okay. Well, Dana, they're okay. They lost a few liters, Dana. And can you prove that? The nuances of nuclear are very scary. And so this was supposed to be taken on the 2nd of January. Now, we noticed this ain't the 2nd of January. There's no snow. And there's no damage. We noticed damage because that whole coastline, 40 kilometers, or 35 miles rather, south of it, 1,400 homes are destroyed. And everything on the north side of it, every community and the roads are destroyed. And one community has over 4,500. But Shika, that city is torn apart. We showed pictures of that last night. But everything but the nuclear power plant got damaged, is what they're saying. This guy, and you got that picture there, and he was an intern from India, I believe. And he said it felt like someone was pushing his desk back and forth. Something got pushed back and forth. Look at the building. So this is what probably happened to the nuclear fuel pools in Shika, because it was shaking so much, it probably dropped them, right? Well, earthquakes expect to deal heavy blow. Now, the nuclear industry can't survive another nuclear meltdown worldwide. If you have a nuclear meltdown anywhere worldwide, that's the death of the nuclear industry. And right now, they have a fake renaissance going on. It's 100% artificially renaissance. There is no renaissance. There's no boom in nuclear power plants. They don't have the manufacturing. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the supply networks. And when it comes to small modular reactors, they don't even have complete applications into the regulatory agencies, which are about 1 million pieces of paper. And so if you don't have a design into the regulatory commission, the design takes 3 or 4 years for them to go, hundreds of people to go through 1 million pieces of paper. And then they have to redesign it based on all the flaws they're going to find. Then they give it back to the company. The company redesigns it. It takes another 3 years. And then they give it back to the regulatory agency. They go through the 1 million pieces of paper again. And then if they approve it now with some modifications, then they can take investors' money and spend $500 million and level out the site they're going to use. That takes another 3 or 4, 5, 6 years. And then when they get that done now, during that period of time, they still got to come up with the actual materials, and everything in the nuclear industry has to be top grade. And so then they build an experimental small modular reactor. And then they take 5 or 6 years to get the kinks out of that, and then they have to redesign it. And then they can submit it now for mass production. But geothermal can curb stomp it. Hydrogen can curb stomp it in that same frame. Wind and solar with storage can curb stomp nuclear into non-existence. But the two best ones are geothermal and hydrogen. You're going to see both of them showing up, and we are now in mass, because hydrogen replaces gasoline and diesel and oil, and geothermal replaces gas, oil, and coal plants. Can't have one without the other, right? You got to have both of them. So you see these severe damage, lateral shakings of these buildings. The Economist estimated that the economic impact to run into the hundreds of millions of dollars, and says the figure could rise as the full extent of the damage becomes clear. In other words, they still don't know what's going on. Because they don't know. They can't quantify anything until they get to all these other communities. So that's why I'm thinking, hey, there's one way you can do it, and you haven't tried it yet, is use helicopters to bring supplies in. I know, brilliant, right? I should get the Nobel Prize for thinking it up, shouldn't I? Because nobody else thought using a helicopter, I bet you. At least I didn't see anybody saying, hey, let's use helicopters. It's just me, my motley crew of anti-nukes. That was us. That was a teamwork. We pulled it off. We did so. Didn't stop smurfing around. Get out of the show. Okay, all right. The epicenter of the 7.6 magnitude earthquake was the Noto Peninsula, Ishikawa province, a.k.a. prefecture, home to one of the biggest machinery, semiconductors, and food factories. A lot of help you guys are. With experts fearing the loss in the GDP, gross domestic product, could rise if the supply chain remain affected for longer periods of time. So they're worried the company's not producing materials, and then the country is going to look bad because of it. goddamn victims of earthquakes. In a perfect world, according to Japan, the earthquake should kill everybody, then you don't have to waste money trying to rescue people. The actual devastation... Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. That can't be true. Or can it? The actual devastation caused by the earthquake is yet unclear as access to the affected region remains a challenge due to damage to the roads and other communication lines. Now let's say that in like a normal person, Dana, please. The actual devastation caused by the earthquake is yet unclear as access to affected regions remain a challenge. Access to affected regions, because they won't use helicopters. They don't want anybody flying past the nuclear power plant, right? Remains a challenge due to the damage to the roads and other communication lines. I gotta read it again. That just make sure it sinks in. We're at day 10. Did anybody bother telling them that you shouldn't leave people isolated for 10 days with no resources, and that all kinds of people might need medical care and medicine and first aid and heat and water and food? Nuclear industry is more important than you, I can guarantee you. It's better 1 million of you died than the nuclear industry get a black eye. The actual devastation caused by the earthquakes is yet unclear as access to the affected regions remain a challenge. Why though? You actually got I know it sounds incredible, but we got helicopters though. We really do. They got no communications, they got damage to the roads, and access to the affected area remains a challenge. Well, you could use hovercrafts and just scoot around the prefecture. You got them big military hovercrafts. You can put your face diapers on and just zip into these communities. At least 3,000 people are still not reachable in Ishikawa province. I can't believe I just said that. This is 10 days later. They can build the world's smallest violin, but they can't get in and rescue these people in the middle of nowhere. I'm very, very disappointed. The heavy rain continues in the disaster-affected region, which have raised the risk of more landslides. How many landslides they got now? It's over 1,200, I guess. Oh, crap. I'm rubbing my eyes again. I got to bring out the big... Because if you get the oil from your hands and your eyes, not good. Not good at all. Japan earthquake death toll tops 200. Everybody else is traumatized for the rest of their lives. Search and rescue personnel involving thousands of soldiers are battling harsh weather and damaged roads to pull out those trapped under the rubble, Dana. Yeah, but we got all these stories. Look, and then 2 sentences down, 3,300 people are still out of reach. Two sentences below, thousands of people are there pulling them out of the rubble, which is not true. They're there. There's no doubt about it. People are being rescued. There's no doubt about that too. But it's not what. Oh, we got caller. Woohoo! We got James. Why, hello there, James Lucid. You might know him from the comments section with the sharp one-liners. Hi, James.
Machida Bashada.
Oh, Mr. Dana, you forgot your great line.
Mr. Dana, you remember that song like back in the 80s? I think it was like Rico Suave. You could do that. Machida
That's a great idea. Machida Bashada.
I just wanted to touch base real quick, regarding that article I sent, yesterday.
Right.
I didn't get a reply back from...
That's so disappointing.
And,
yeah, I know. Go ahead, James. I'm sorry. You're breaking up.
Just to give a background so people know what I'm talking about, this guy wrote an article with a headline, "We need more nuclear." More nuclear. And he just went on and on and on about how this is going to solve the climate crisis and everything like that. And I'm telling you, anyone that watches your show for more than a week would have the strongest convictions to just want to, like, you know, find this person, just scream in their face about how wrong they are.
Yeah, no kidding. It's heartbreaking.
Because, like, how can you ignore the fact that nuclear energy plants require external power to operate?
And a lot. We're talking, like, the water pumps, for people that don't understand, the reactors need 4,500 tons every single minute. So think of how much electricity we're talking about. And then think about the whole site is dependent on electricity externally. So it needs 2 dedicated gas, oil, and coal plants. And I read James's article last night. He texted to me. And James is unbelievably polite. I'm nowhere near that anymore. I'm way too cynical to be polite to these people anymore. But I'm sorry, James, go ahead. I just want to give people background.
No, I wanted to be. I didn't want. I heavily edited it to the point where I was polite. It didn't start out like that.
No, I don't imagine.
Like, I was really.
Yeah.
I just thought, like, maybe I could come across like a reasonable person and just remind this person, like, hey, by the way, if you want more nuclear, you need more coal. So isn't that a paradox?
Oh yeah, no, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like he probably read the whole thing. See, like when I write it, he'll read the first sentence and then he'll go delete. But what's yours, he'll probably read the whole bloody thing, because even though he doesn't, he probably might know the difference, and he might agree with you. His job is obviously. It's a good way to approach it, I think. Anyway, go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
I don't know what else to do. You know, the fact that I don't get a reply. And it just makes me wonder, like, are these people just installed? Are they just there to, like, keep this narrative going? Like, are they smarter? Are they as smart as us, but just playing a role because they want to get their bills paid? I don't know anymore. You know, it's just so confusing. And let me just bring up something else. I don't want to take too much time. I've got a friend, someone I know, who's on a cruise right now in the Caribbean. And they've been on this cruise before in prior years and everything. And I guess they have text message service and that kind of stuff now, and that's great. Anyway, I asked them, I'm like, hey, you're on the south. You know, he's off the coast of, somewhere off of Mexico right now, I think. Or the time I talked to him a couple days ago. I asked him, do you smell the sea?
Yeah.
And he responds, you know, it's interesting that you said that. You know, I can kind of smell it. There's a hint of it, but it's nothing like I remember it. And by the way, all I'm seeing is a couple of gulls in the air. Like, it's not like there's, you know, and I talked to him about, you know, Fukushima in the past and everything. And I wasn't trying to, like, you know, ruin his vacation or anything, but it really, I mean, it's the Caribbean.
Yeah, it should be. They're magnets, those ships are, for birds, right? And you got such a vantage point. I mean, folks, these buildings are like these ships are 10 stories up or more. You got serious view, right? And he's not seeing no birds.
And it's just a testament. I mean, you're out on the sea. You can't smell it. I mean, what is the smell of the sea equate? It's the biology. It's what's alive in the ocean.
It is.
If you can't smell that sea, there's nothing there.
That's right. Yeah, it's sterile.
And they want to blame it on acidification, on, you know, whatever. The only thing that could destroy the ocean is nuclear energy. That's the only thing that can do it.
That's right. That's 100% correct, by the way, yeah. I concur. And that's quite interesting, though. I'm glad you asked those questions, and I'm glad you brought it up, because that is it's just more evidence, unfortunately, of what's really happening to us since March 11th, 2011, was a pulse event on this planet, and it started a chain reaction of die-offs of species. And we're seeing it now manifest in so many ways. Denial, and this is why we're worried sick about Shika, because that's the straw that will break the planet's back, so to speak. And
right.
Yeah,
Right, and to think about all of those that are still alive under that rubble, and the government is just too scared to get out there because they're not sure. I mean, there has to be a formula. You can only you have to have so much water volume over those spent fuel pools. If it tips over, or if something occurs where that water level drops, it's game over.
That's
and
right.
They know that.
Yeah. And so the poll tonight, should they send in helicopters and to bring in supplies? That's crazy that I would ask that question 10 days later, isn't it? That's a crazy thought that they didn't do that and they ain't doing that. And because that's the only reason people are not getting any supplies, because they refuse to send in helicopters because they don't want pictures, I guess. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say?
I'll send a PayPal for the call and everything. And
it's okay, man.
I
You're
just
awesome,
really
boy.
appreciate everything you're doing here. This is so awesome.
Thank you, my
And
friend. Bless you.
I feel like
awesome.
We'll get there. Eventually, this will get out in the world, and people will figure it out.
I think so.
Be that way.
We just got to keep hammering the truth out there, right? Okay, my friend.
All you can do.
Loves you, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, James. Okay, bye-bye. That's James Lucid, folks, in the comments section. And he's the first one to buy a Calm Down Charlie t-shirt. And by the way, we're at 249 Calm Down Charlie t-shirts up at my website. That's incredible, actually. 249. I can't wait. I'm hoping by the day of tomorrow or by the beginning of next week we got 250 t-shirts sold, because I'm actually going to celebrate that. Shimashita Mishata, Tokyo Bureau, Chicago. He stalked me for almost 10 years now, about harassing me, phoning me during the live streams. We haven't heard from him for quite a while. It's a little bit lonely. We're so used to him stalking me and being a scumbag. And Yoshida Mishata, I think they got him back in his cubicle in the office. He's not allowed out for a couple of years. So 3,300 people still out of reach. They're not out of reach due to broken roads. They're out of reach because they won't send a helicopter full of supplies. Does that make sense? Am I being crazy to say that? Am I being outrageous to suggest that? Wait a second. Should they send in helicopters? Dana, helicopters are not for helping. And I'm only allowed to use a very few letters down here for another option compared to poll. Because originally I wrote there, Dana, you can't use helicopters. That's ridiculous, sending in supplies and food and water on a helicopter. It's outrageous to think that, Dana. And that was way too many letters. So that was the best I could put there, was these 5 words. Helicopters are not for helping. And I was just bored and I wrote, which is not a very articulated thing, is it? Pretty pathetic, I know. Let's keep it rolling. I'm pathetic anyway, so don't feel bad. Okay, let me keep it rolling here. We're actually doing pretty good here tonight. It takes so long to do the intro of the story, to introduce everything and lay out 9 days and lay out Fukushima, the precedents of what they've done before and stuff like that. It took 26 minutes or something. And we're pretty fast at it, believe it or not, and very thorough on top of that. To meet the needs of the sick, drone companies are dropping essential medicine. The area is cut off due to landslides. But we don't. Drones are small helicopters. We don't need them. Like I think we should start a campaign and write all the medias in Japan saying helicopters can be used to bring food and medicine into the victims. So next time you have a major earthquake, you guys should consider, put a little note there, give it to the Sally Ann so she can put it in the official notes, that the next time you have a massive earthquake and people are stranded, just send in helicopters with foods and blankets and water and stuff like that until the roads are clear. Man, I wish I had thought about this 10 days ago. But everybody was like, no, everybody made fun of me. Not the regulars, but the strangers were coming here making fun of me, saying, come on, Dan, you can't use helicopters for everything. And I like, you got a point. They're only going to starve to death and die of hunger and thirst. And they're only people. They're not like they're important from the nuclear industry or something. The weather agency has cautioned people against lowering their guard as seismic activity continues in the region. And Japan, considered earthquake prone, is said to have been hit by hundreds of small magnitude tremors since January the 1st. Is said to have been hit by hundreds of small magnitude tremors since January the 1st. And I know to be pro-nuclear and to be against someone like me who's just completely honest and I'm very sincere. I'm not doing this because it's fun. It's so much work. I'm doing it because I worry about everybody and all the species. And we don't have anybody out there. Oh, I got the volume way up to it. I'm sorry. Let me turn it back a notch. Okay, I just turned the volume back a notch. I had it up for James's phone call to help try to boost the call out there. I meant to turn it down, and I left it up, so that was kind of, everybody was like, Dana. I don't know if anybody said anything, actually. Let's come back over the poll. Let me see here. No, nobody was yelling about the volume. Yeah, we only need to sell one more Calm Down Charlie t-shirt over at my website. Don't worry about it. Let's... Let me see if I can bring it up for you right quick. I'm not doing it because I want you to buy a Calm Down Charlie t-shirt tonight. Okay, maybe I am, but hang on. Save the Children t-shirts, ban nuclear power. Where's my Calm Down Charlie t-shirts? What, did they rank me down or something? Oh, because I put up other t-shirts. I moved them off the front page or something. Because we got a white background, I can't really see. Anyway, let's keep going here. Let's keep it rolling. I got in one of the categories now and I got it mixed up. And I'm using my link itself instead of the website link. It's all good. Here we go. A strong earthquake hit central Japanese prefecture Niigata, which is where another nuclear power plant is too, near the Ishikawa prefecture, where a massive quake hit on New Year's Day. Massive earthquake shifts the land in Japan. And I can't tell the difference, to tell you the truth. But they can, apparently. And this story they're talking about, it damaged thousands of buildings, vehicles, and boats. It may have shifted the land in the Noto region. Now, this is different again, where the ocean floor shifted. On the latest pass, a spacecraft reported the distance between itself and the ground had shortened as the Earth's surface has risen up under the force of the tremor. Now remember, for 9 days they call it a tremor, L-O-R. Now they're calling it a tremor. Everybody done that today. Everybody switched over to the word tremor. All the media symmetrically had shifted that word to tremor instead of tremor. Because we've been making fun of them for 9 days, right? Fortunately, the uplift may have lessened the impact of the waves. So, fortunately, the Earth rising up 13 feet and tearing apart the whole peninsula stopped the tsunami from doing any more damage. That's what they actually just said that. Fortunately, the uplift lessened the impact of the tsunami. Yeah, but have you seen what it looks like? The roads are torn apart. It's really something. It's quite a statement, eh? Big quake shook parts of Shika nuclear plant above the safety estimates. And this was another interesting one. And I'm not sure when this picture was taken. The shaking of the idled. Now, the fuel pools are never idle. The fuel pools got no containment, and they're splitting atoms the same as they were for 1 million homes. Each of them, reactor cores, and there's multiple reactor cores in each fuel pool. During the New Year's Day earthquake slightly exceeded the estimated maximum levels. So they keep changing their story, don't they? The Secretariat of the Nuclear Regulation Authority announced on January 10. Now, they were created post-Fukushima, which is really interesting. Why didn't they exist before? Announced on January 10th, which is today. First off, all the radiation detected, 15 of them, within several kilometers, went offline / torn apart from the massive earthquake, right? However, the Secretariat of the Nuclear Watchdog, which is not a watchdog, they're a promoter of nuclear, they're not a watchdog, said the necessary power supplies for cooling the spent fuel is secure and there's no safety issues with the plant. Well, that's quite interesting they said that today, isn't it? 10 days later. The number 2 reactor is currently under review for new regulatory standards before it can be restarted, and the operator has not yet applied for the review of the number 1 reactor. Which has the fault underneath that I showed you earlier and registered an upper 5 on Japan's seismic intensity scale of 7. For these specific periods, operators estimate the acceleration and maximum intensity of the possible shaking using the unit measurement called GALS with the lower case. In the Noto Peninsula, earthquakes in January 1st, the shaking slightly exceeded the estimated levels in some period bands, which is vibrations per milliseconds or something. But important facilities such as the reactor buildings and the pressure vessels were not susceptible. Well, the reactor, we're not worried about the reactor building. There's no fuel in it. We're worried about the reactor building, but not the reactor. At the top of the reactor building is 2 fuel pools at the top of each building. There's 4 fuel pools at the site. And each of the fuel pools got decades of reactor cores stored in them because you don't have a repository anywhere, let alone in Japan. So the reactor cores are kept in the top of the building underwater, special water, and they have to replace it all day long, about 120,000 liters per pool. And as James Lewis was talking about it earlier, was that if the level goes down a little bit, what actually happens is the minute that the rods are uncovered, they catch fire, they burn at 1800 degrees. And this stuff doesn't need oxygen, so it'll burn underwater. The rest of the fuel will catch fire. The fuel pellets, now we're talking about the zirconium claddings of the fuel rods themselves, will catch fire, burn at 1800 degrees. That will ignite the plutonium, uranium, which are in the pellets, and now they're liberated and there's nothing to contain them, nothing to separate them. That's the criticality. So everything will burn. That will evaporate all the water in the fuel pool pretty quickly, within a half an hour, say. It'll boil dry, but you'll have a raging inferno at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. And that's a chain reaction. And that doesn't need oxygen to continue for 1,000 years, which is the uniqueness of nuclear, isn't it? And at the idle Kashiwazaki Kariwa nuclear power plant in Niigata Prefecture, which is operated by the Tokyo despicable, disgusting, sadistic Tokyo Electric Power Company, the shaking was below the estimates for all period bands. But at the Shika, it exceeded it. And the reason they're using that scale is not an international scale either. They use that scale to manipulate the consensus. At the meetings, they showed the status of the monitoring post measuring radiation levels around the Shika nuclear power plant. According to the authorities, after the January 1st earthquake, which recorded a maximum intensity of 7 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale, and they omitted the fact that that's just a 7. So it's a 7 on a 7. So it's the worst of the worst shaking possible. Monitoring posts were unable to take measurements at 18 locations, mainly 15 kilometers or more north. Well, what about south? What about west of the Shika plant? Because the prevailing winds, right? They're very slick, aren't they? As of the 10:50 a.m. on today, in their time though, the figure declined to 7 locations, and 5 of these have been replaced with alternative monitoring posts. So why would you rush in there and replace them when you got people who need to be rescued all around that place? And how did you replace them when you don't have any power? How can you connect them when you don't have the power? The NRA, the Nuclear Non-Regulatory Agency, we call them, the Nuclear Regulatory Agency guidelines state that the monitoring posts are used to decide whether evacuation is necessary in the event of a nuclear accident. And so because they were all taken down, then by proxy you should have evacuated, right? Monitoring posts are used to decide whether evacuation is necessary in the event of a nuclear accident instead of an actual meltdown. The monitoring posts are. Oh, it's not too bad over there north. It's some scam, isn't it? It's a lethal scam on top of that. Let's go back to February 23rd, 2021. Broken devices at Fukushima plant failed to record the vital quake data, which is the same stuff we're talking about, right? But in this case, it's earthquake data. And so that's Shika, Prime Minister Shika. Like every other Prime Minister, they don't last very long. But that guy with the blue on, he's always there. And he's been there for multiple prime ministers of the country, haven't he? He's always showing up in the pictures. He's always like, you'll give me the memory card after. I give you back your petrol, you'll allow yours. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga visited the Fukushima No. 1 nuclear power plant in September, November the 3rd. Reactor buildings are seen in the background. Bear with me. That makes sense. The pool. Why did he put that there? The pool. Number 3 reactor fuel pool. That's what they're claiming, right? Well, let's have a look at other known pictures. That's the official picture of number 3 reactor fuel pool. So that cover is over that building, that stump right there. These stumps should have been reactor 4 and reactor 3. Should have been leveled to the ground. What they done was they put this cover over it. They built it off site and brought it there and assembled it, and then claimed that they're in the fuel pools, getting the fuel out of the reactor. But when obviously the reactor doesn't exist, and they've done the exact same thing with reactor 4. So he's saying that the earthquake sensors, this was 2021, at the pool, at the top of the buildings, which doesn't exist, didn't happen to work. So became aware last year that the seismometers installed at the number 3 reactor building, because if you go there, that's a lethal dose immediately. That's an actual real-life Medusa. We're on the blink, but didn't repair them. We're on the blink. There's no electronics can survive in there, period. Company officials told a meeting at the Nuclear Regulation Authority on February 22nd. The company, TEPCO, told, and the Nuclear Radiation Authority said, yeah, well, they're at the fuel pool at the very top of the building, which is 100 feet above that. Stumped there. So if that's not corrupt, what actually is, I wonder? If that's not completely broken, what is? And they're so brazen that they're pretending the fuel pool is on top of a building that no longer actually exists. Company installed the seismometers in March last year after the non-regulatory agency said they would be useful in evaluating degree of deterioration of the structure. One was placed at the top floor. The other one was placed at the top floor and the other one on the bottom floor. Like, there is nobody going to survive that encounter. That's a lethal dose immediately. Like, if you ran up to the building and put your hand on it, when you start to run away, your organs are melting so much. This is pretty graphic stuff you're going to hear right now. And we've seen this in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where they would find people squatted down and they had excreted their internal organs because they melted down from the gamma shines, the neutron bombardments, the beta rays, and the alpha rays. Lion is just natural for him. Telling the truth is never going to happen. One was placed at the top floor and one was on the ground floor. The other one was on the ground floor, Dana. Like, that contraption over there was built off-site, brought there, and assembled with cranes. Everything is just gravity held. And that contraption doesn't physically touch the building. Obviously, the building is so fragile it can't contain any weight, right? But I just wanted you to see what other lies they have told about these kinds of scenarios and bring a parallel. One was broken in July, the other in October. Like, neither one of them were in July or October because neither one of them could be there. There is no top to the building. So that the whole story was about making you believe the building existed. That's what that whole story is actually about. Lion is just, it's like saying the alphabet. It comes very natural for him. Quake-affected foreigners can apply for residence extension. Well, you ain't got much choice if you can't get out of there, and they won't send in helicopters. I don't know what the big whoop is. Why not send in some helicopters? Should Japan use helicopters to bring supplies and to help the hundreds of victims, and thousands of victims rather, tens of thousands of victims, after 10 days of no help? No heat, no water, no food, no electricity, no medication, no signs that anybody gives a shit about them. The roads are not even cleared in these little communities. Now there is one community here I'm going to show you with 50,000 people where they did clear some areas when they were looking for victims of the landslides. It's a terrible story. We're coming up pretty quick. So consider voting. Consider giving me a thumbs up. It might not work because I'm censored like crazy, but it's okay. You can try. And how many times have we seen this media run that picture? What about the rest of the communities? Why ain't you showing us pictures of Shika? The Justice Minister said more than 72,000 foreigners are living in 4 quake-affected prefectures: Ishikawa, Toyama, Niigata, and Fukai. A lot of foreigners, eh? Japan's Tohoku Electric to delay nuclear reactor restart on construction work. That's the Shika plant, is it? I think we're forced to use the big screen due to my failing eyesight. Oh, this is another plant in Onagawa town, Miyagi Prefecture. That's Miyagi Prefecture. That place is still shut down. I like these crop pictures they give you, because if you zoom back, you'll start seeing all the farms. Let's keep rolling here. Japan experts give tips for quake evacuees to avoid hypothermia. The only thing is they can't communicate with them because they got no internet, they got no reception, they got no electricity. To avoid hypothermia, but this is good information. To avoid hypothermia, blood clots, and diseases if you're abandoned by your government for 10 days. I gotta say it. It's true, right? Tell me it's not true. Prove me it's not true. You can call in, same as James done. It's really easy. All you gotta do is pick up the phone. Call 709-589-4406. I won't tell anybody. As frigid temperatures hit the region, experts are warning residents to be particularly wary of hypothermia. Well, they got 8 people admitted that died in the shelters today. Did they die of radioactive fallout? That's a question you should be concerned about. Don't sleep directly on the floor when you only got the floor and you're lucky to have a floor. Walk as much as possible during the day. Move the ankles even when sitting. These are great tips for everybody. Frequent water intake is also a good preventive measure. They're only getting a glass a day and a slice of bread a day. It is also important not to hold back and go into the bathroom. Well, if you're only drinking a glass a day, you might as well fill up, pee in the glass, and drink that again later, because you ain't getting another glass that day. And that won't hurt you. There's people out there that that's all they do. They drink their own pee. They don't drink anything else. I'm not suggesting you do it. I'm just saying. You can go look it up yourself. You'll see lots of people do that thing. That's what's called recycling. If you have no choice but to stay overnight in your car, you want to keep your legs in position, allow you to stretch them out horizontally to avoid blood clots. There's a lot of things can give you blood clots in the last 10 years, tell you what, 12 years. In cold weather, the airflow is faster, closer to the floor due to the temperature difference, making it easier to inhale dust. And this can lead to asthma, pneumonia, influenza, and other infectious diseases. These are all great tips. And many volunteers are expected to rush to the disaster-hit areas in the future. Like volunteers are wanting to come there from India and China and other countries and go in with dogs and rescue people. Japan was like, ho, 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 no thanks. There's no need. We're not even going in there, so how the hell are we going to let you go in there? Right, if you go back and look at my first couple of videos, we're pretty short compared to these guys. Because we're very curious type of site here where when we see these kinds of abnormalities that are more blatant than every single day, and you're 10 days into where it's a ridiculousness. It's 10 days later, you're still not going to send in helicopters. Really? That's quite interesting. Well, I want to know why. I'm going to ride this storm for a few more shows yet. They cautioned there's a possibility of bringing in infectious diseases from outside the disaster area. This is quite. So if you're not feeling well, don't go there and try to help people. And if you're in the area and you feel ill, try to get out of there. Well, you can't get out of there unless a helicopter comes, and I can assure you that's not going to happen. Quake elevates. It doesn't make any sense. Give them a helicopter full of food. Come on. Give them a helicopter full of food. Should Japan use helicopters to bring supplies and helps to the thousands of victims after 10 days of no help? Come on, Dana, that's silly. Stop being silly, Dana. Mom, Dana's being silly. Nuclear scientists all over the world are, Mom, Dana's being silly. Come down in the basement. The coastline shown in red that rose after January 1st earthquake in Ishikawa prefecture. The coastline shown in red that rose. That's a lot worse than that, by the way. It was 85-kilometer stretch of the Noto Peninsula coast to elevate 13 feet up in the air and 820 feet oceanward. Moved significantly out to sea. Guess where the nuclear power plants are located? Oh, that's right on the coastline, Dana. And this is one, you can see the satellite. I'll get my big head out of the way. And look at the coastline pop up. Wow. That's really something, isn't it? So thank God 85 kilometers of the coastline rose up, because the tsunami would have been a lot worse if that didn't happen. I can't believe the media actually said that in the story, right? Thank God it moved up 13 feet and destroyed all those communities and roads and highways and caused all the landslides. Otherwise, the tsunami would have got them. A strong earthquake jolted central Japan on Tuesday. A massive quake hit on New Year's Day. The 6.0 quake at a lower intensity of 5 on Japan's seismic intensity scale of 0 to 7. Well, thank you very much for telling us that much. Most of the media refused to put in the latter part of that equation, right? So the quake epicenter was near Sado Island in the Sea of Japan, which is out there. And where the 4 is to is where the nuclear power plant Niigata is to. And where the other 4, in the opposite side of the 4 there, is where the Shika plant is to. And they're warning residents remain alert for upper 5 or stronger tremors. Now, they're all using tremors today. They're all using the word tremors today. I just want to go back. Just give me a second. Just humor me for a few moments. Let me go find something for you from the previous shows we've done this week. Let me see, because sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you don't. Blah, 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 blah. Let me see. We're looking for... Just give me a minute. Making it hard on me. Anyway, I'm looking for the tremors, because we've been covering it for 9 days. Yeah. Oh, well, let's keep going, I guess. I'm having a hard time. It doesn't matter. Many communities are still isolated. A man loses 10 family members in a landslide. Look here. Look there. Look at this. Fire trucks. And I think there's ambulances right there. My head wasn't in the way. Look at that. Heavy equipment there somewhere too, I think. And unfortunately, he lost his whole family. And that was up here. I think there's around 50,000 people in that area. Don't quote me, but I do believe. Isn't that where there's 50,000 people? We've covered that, right? So this is where the landslides. We'll get some close-up pictures. But see, this is what it should look like everywhere. This is the first time we've seen this. In 10 days, this is the very first time we've seen anything like this. And now this was 2000, or on the 4th. Well, the story came out on it yesterday. But I think this search and rescue effort we're seeing, you can see all kinds of houses destroyed too there. All kinds of houses in the landslides. Look at the destruction right there. I'm not sure I guess this is a drone. Because apparently they don't use helicopters anymore when there's accidents. It's only for flying around, it's not for actual doing good stuff. He lost his whole family, folks. Look at all the buildings destroyed. And bless these search and rescue people. Look, there's heavy equipment. Well, after 10 days, that's the second piece of heavy equipment we've seen. Or is it the third piece? Second piece, I think it is. Sad job, right? And so there's the third piece, and that's holding up the house so they can work underneath it. They're hoping to find survivors. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. 10 people in the one house lost the whole family. He wasn't there. He was at work or something. And that's what... Why is this the first time we've seen anything like this in 10 days? Like we normally see that 3 hours later, right? In fact, normally the first footage will come out, will show you all kinds of first responders. That's some of the family up there that was lost. Clinging to hope that his family survived, but unfortunately, I'd be gutted, I know it's that much. And such a heartbreaking story, I'm not going to try to read it. I do want to acknowledge that it happened. And the government, this happened many other places in the government. We still don't know the whole story. And they're talking about reconstruction, and there's 12 communities that they still haven't rescued people from. And so that's the Prime Minister of Japan doing that. And that was a couple of days ago on top of that. It's just the whole story is just bizarre. Everything about it is bizarre. Why not send in helicopters to the isolated communities and give them water and blankets and cots and all kinds of equipment? You could just, all these military helicopters, not like they're going to go to war with the helicopters. Why not use them for something good? Quake death toll stands at 206. 8 of them died at an evacuation shelter. And because they can't prove otherwise, I'm assuming that they died from radiation poisoning. Such deaths weren't directly caused by the quakes, fires, and mudslides. They claim the pressure and the stress of living in a place you aren't used to led to such deaths. That got disputed later on. Now, after Fukushima, there was 3,000 people died shortly after, evacuees. Now, they said they died from stress, but we've seen millions, 10 million at a time, evacuate from typhoons, cyclones, hurricanes, and we never seen a mass mortality events. Only at Fukushima. He said a number of deaths in Ishikawa evacuation centers surprised him. He said, I'm really shocked. Yeah, because that many people shouldn't be dying. Like, really, it shouldn't be dying. Yeah, there's a lot of elderly up there, but it's not like they're zombies. They know how to take care of the basic parts themselves. Those injured total 567, and 18,000 homes were destroyed or seriously damaged, according to the Ishikawa officials. But that's south of the Shika plant, the nuclear power plant. 14,000 homes without electricity, and 59,000 homes had no running water. And they won't have any running water because the earth has shifted 13 feet. You're going to have to lay all new pipes. Soon they'll be able to move to 110 hotels and inns that volunteered to accept 3,000 people from the region. Nearby prefectures are also offering to open up their hotels. So this is an amazing accident that you're going to do something like that. And yet they're downplaying it. So a criticism grew about the government's disaster response. Thank goodness. And I thought I was the only one for a while there. Prime Minister Kishida administration earmarked 4.5 billion yen for disaster to provide food, water, blanket, milk, and clothing. 10 days later. This is today's story, right? Is it? Let me double check. Yeah, that's today's story. So that's equal to around 43 million Canadian, which is equal to 1,500 Canadian, about $6 US per victim. I'm just kidding you. But the Canadian dollar is pretty brutal. The Canadian dollar is a joke, actually. And so these people are actually living in luxury. They actually got some kinds of comforts. They're in a small room, so they can actually, if they have a generator or something, they can actually heat it. But the people in the school auditoriums have no way of generating heat. With these high ceilings, there's no way to keep the heat. It's guaranteed to mess people up. A whale shark died in an aquarium. Why would you put a whale shark in an aquarium, man? My goodness. And they eat phytoplankton, for goodness sakes. The enormous earthquake. It lost a whole bunch of water right away, and they had to manually put water into it. The temperatures went down because they don't have any heat. The other whale shark is still alive, but they don't know for how long. Risk of a major Noto quake still 100 times greater than normal. That's today, or yesterday's story. He's got good hair, man. That's got good hair. Wish I had hair like that. Dan, stop being a dork. Tell the story. So are these all some of the aftershocks? There's around 1,200 aftershocks, right? There's around 1,200 aftershocks. I'm rushing to try to get through it, but you can only rush so fast. The probability levels for a quake with a seismic intensity of at least upper 5 in Japan's seismic intensity scale is 7. Thank you for using that, journalist. Way to go. Get yourself a little silver star and put it on your forehead. Will remain for a month, give or take 1,000 years. The agency said at a news conference in January 8, aftershocks of that size already rattled disaster areas in the prefecture. how many aftershocks? 1,200 or something? How many landslides? Well over 1,000. Damage is accumulated in the buildings through the quakes until now. Endless quakes. Every 7 minutes or something, there's another quake. They've had well over 400 or something at over 3.5. Hope people will be sufficiently cautious when taking part in recovery activities because there's a possibility structures will collapse with even small shakes because everything is very fragile now. The magnitude 7.6 earthquake on New Year's Day registered as a maximum intensity of 7 out of 7 on the peninsula, the Noto Peninsula. Although the number of daily quakes have decreased, there's over 1,221 tremors. Now, tremors is not used in the context, right, of earthquakes. They're called aftershocks. But including results for earthquake tremors. Tremors. So if you put tremor in, which is what they've been using for 9 days, nothing shows up. If you put tremor in, it showed up 3 times. Snowfall on January the 7th and 8th also interfered with search and rescue efforts. But the first 5 days you had no snow, no rain, you had perfect conditions. You could have been in there everywhere. You could have rescued everybody. And the first 72 hours were the most important. 11 centimeters of snow fallen in Shuzu City, which had 4,500 of the 5,000 homes collapsed. And so when you put all this extra weight on the rest of the fragile buildings, guess what's probably happened? And 9 centimeters in Nanaos and 8 centimeters in Wajima. So that's catastrophic, what we're talking about. And that's enough snow to knock a lot of radiation out of the sky too, isn't it? And these are the most searched topics for the start of 2024. Top 5 trending searches on the first day of 2024 was football. And the next one for 2 million was football. And the third top search on New Year's Day was Japan's earthquake. Suspicious object found at the gates of the Japanese Parliament building, the Diet, what's known as the Diet. But has been confirmed of not being dangerous. The land of the setting sun. A report came in at 3:30 p.m. local time. A suspicious item. Anything. If you leave a chicken bag out there on the sidewalk, they'll bring in the bomb squad, right? If there's an empty beer box there, they'll bring in a bomb squad. Well, Pete, and that got me on Walmart terrorist watch list because I made some videos up where I was going out and I would pick up the phone and call Walmart and say, hey, I think I found an IED on the side of the road. Could be, it looks like a beer box, but I'm afraid terrorists might have it booby trapped. Do you guys want to come down and check it out? And I done that all day long, and then they put me on a watch list at Walmarts across Canada. It's a true story, by the way. I shot a video and posted it on my channel that had 1,600 presentations on it, and they took that down a little over 2 years ago, and I was out looking for spiders on a research expedition. We couldn't find spiders here on the East Coast or the West Coast. Investigators later confirmed that the suspicious item looked like a messenger bag with a photo and a letter in it. A photo and a letter in it. So it was a messenger bag. They brought in the bomb squad because there's no way somebody could have left their bag behind. Very disappointing. It was thrown in by someone who was discovered by security guards within the Diet. The Parliament, it added. The probe is currently underway. It was thrown in. Someone ran by and threw in a leather messenger bag with a picture and a letter inside of it. Sounds like some blackmailing going on, right? My apologies. Nuclear Engineering International oil leak reported at Japan's Shika nuclear power plant following the earthquake. So, if you see it at Nuclear Engineering International, which is a pro-nuclear lobbying group, there's probably a meltdown going on. The Noto Peninsula earthquake famous market and Magna Museum destroyed. So you know this place here. You know that picture right there? Well, this is what it used to look like. I dug up a picture. That's the shop right here. And it used to have this huge robot in front of it, right? It's the most popular tourist spot in Wajima. But that's what it... Look how desolate this place is right now. But look what it's supposed to look like. That's before and after. And we're almost through it. Just another few... another 6-7 minutes maybe or something like that. Experts call for improving living conditions at the Noto Peninsula quake evacuees. And see, that would be pretty good, but we know the majority of them don't live in a spot like that whatsoever. Many of the disaster-related deaths were caused by poor living conditions in shelters. No food, no water, no electricity, no entertainment, no nothing to keep them busy. Totally abandoned by the government. We're in 10 days later and the government still haven't gone into 12 different cities. Look at the damage to these places. Another earthquake in the same area. And this is Shika, I think, where the nuclear power plant is. That they don't put nothing there. We'll just burn through the rest of this here. More than 1,200 aftershocks. Heavy snowfall in some places complicating relief efforts, with 30,000 people 10 days later living in 400 government shelters as of Monday, yesterday, or the day before. And they're still there today. Some of which are overcrowded and struggling to provide adequate food, water, and heating. There's about 60,000 homes were left without water, etc., and the list goes on. Several days of rain had worsened the road condition, causing about 1,000 landslides. The country was hit by a devastating 2011 earthquake that led to a nuclear meltdown at the Fukushima plant. And this is worse than a meltdown. It was meltdowns. There was 4 reactors meltdowns. And so I really disrespect those that do that. When you look at the damage, it lost 2 fuel pools at the top of that building, 2 fuel pools, and each of the fuel pools have decades of reactor cores. Like, the numbers we're talking about, each of these buildings is worse than all nuclear meltdowns worldwide combined. Each of these buildings is worse than that combined. And there's 4 of those buildings gone. In Japan, earthquake survivors are struggling to rebuild their lives. Struggling to rebuild their lives. It's such the tremors, which is not, there wasn't tremors, there was earthquakes, which measured the highest 6 and 7 on Japan's Shindo, a seismic intensity scale, destroyed at least 14 homes, and not even counting the worst hit areas. They're not even counting the worst hit areas, and there's 14 homes. They're south of the Shika plant. The worst hit areas are north of Shika. And when he arrived in Fukushima, 72 hours later, the air was filled with the sirens of ambulances and fire engines and the sound of helicopters taking off. This is Wajima. Now, we covered this. This is day 10. We haven't seen a single siren, a single ambulance, a single helicopter. And they're talking about on day 3. The air was filled with sirens of ambulances and fire engines and the sounds of helicopters taking off. So obviously this is in response to me mocking them now for 9 days. Because there's nobody else doing that to them, right? That's the response to what we're doing here, folks. That cracks me up every time I see it. I was looking at it today, and I was like, that's so absurd to suggest that that's real. Residents struggle to recover. This was the most useless video imaginable. And that's what the mainstream media is pumping out, right? The most useless videos imaginable. They got nothing to do with the actual earthquake and the damage that's going on currently, right? All I can say is there's no reason to be evil. There really isn't. And we've seen so many, like, how many, I don't know, thousands and thousands of pictures in the last 10 days. And so I have another site set up. I'm just going to show that to you. Another site set up. So this is the video we're watching currently. I'm going to click there. Now, I don't know if anybody has Telegram set up. I'm just going to let you find me anyway. I'm on Telegram now. Maybe I'm not. Oh, there's my Telegram. So it's t.me, right/nuclear for dummies. And that'll take you to my site on the Telegram. And Telegram is a channel, is like a social networking site. It's a very cool site where you can do messaging. Everything's encrypted. And I live streamed a 16-minute video today. It took me about 2 hours to finally get it to work from the TriCaster, right? Because you can do it with your phone, you can do it with your laptop. But where's the fun in that, right? Doing it with a TriCaster, that takes some real work. So we got that working. And you can follow me over there. Unfortunately, you got to put Telegraph on as an app on your system for that to work. Typically, that's done with a phone, but you can put it on your phone and put it on your laptop, for instance. And then once it's on your phone, then you can open it up on your laptop. It's a little confusing. Now, it's been there for about 13 years, Telegram. And so I was able, there's a lot of subjects we can't talk about on YouTube, right? But I can talk about anything I want on Telegram. And so I also uploaded a video there today. I'm just trying to get the kinks out of it. You can do polls over there and stuff like that. And in the future, I'm hoping to do topics that I can't do on YouTube. I can still live stream over there. It doesn't cost nothing. And it worked absolutely perfectly. And the quality was perfect. So that's encouraging. So just so you know, you'll see that link will be under my videos from now on. And that's to the one of the channels that I set up for live streaming and for doing polls. And so as I get figured that out over the next couple of weeks, then I'll start utilizing it maybe once on the weekend for like a half an hour show on topics we can't talk about on YouTube and stuff. And it's for censorship, right? If we think we're going to be censored, we can do the show over there. All right, so that's it. That's all she got. That's what she wrote. That's the story tonight. We're going to come in and close the poll. I just closed that window. Bear with me. Open up our chummy again. All right, so we're going to close the poll. Something in the water. I can't talk about that subject on YouTube. But yes, that's what I intend to do. Right? It's going to go up on that site. You'll also find that stuff, but it got censored at my BitChute channel. So I'll definitely be putting it over there. So let's close the poll down. And thank everybody for finding time, the energy, the effort, and the courage to hear a different version of the Japanese. Should Japan use helicopters, bring supplies, and help to the thousands of victims after 10 days of no help? And we got 67 votes, literally 100%. And we're going to end the poll right there. let it hang out there for another second. And we'll see everybody tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is theoretically the final show of the week. But because this is such an important story, you know I'm not going to stop working, right? You know that about me. And so I might be back. So let's end the poll right there. And say goodnight to everybody. Hugs for everybody. Extra hugs for James. He always calls in at the right time. He breaks up the show just right. Something in the Water also asked, was directed energy weapons testing used? It could be. Right? We can't rule. Unfortunately, you can't rule anything out anymore. Okay, good night, everybody. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody on the other side tomorrow night. Don't forget the likes up and all that other stuff. Take care, folks.